Welcome to the very first episode of the Friends with Benefits podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Ware, CEO of Aware Benefits, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey with all of you. Our goal with this podcast is simple: to demystify the complex world of health insurance and Medicare and bring you valuable insights from experts shaping our healthcare landscape. We're here to help you make informed decisions about your healthcare coverage, build a community around shared knowledge, and ultimately be your trusted friend with benefits when it comes to your healthcare needs. Before we dive in, I want to give a huge shout out to our incredible sponsor for this episode, the National Automobile Museum, right here in beautiful Reno, Nevada. We're filming in this spectacular location, and if you haven't had a chance to visit, you're missing out on a true gem of automotive history. Thank you, National Automobile Museum, for your support. I couldn't be more excited to introduce our very first guest, a true expert in the field, and someone I deeply respect. Joining me today is Nevada Medicare Sales Director for Prominence Health, Mary Granger. Thank you so much for being here, Mary. It's a real honor to have you kick off our podcast.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're certainly welcome. It says here you've been an active member in the Medicare Advantage sales space since 2004 and held positions as a direct sales agent, inside sales team manager, broker relations. You collaborate with internal teams to understand market needs, refine messaging, and develop effective marketing campaigns that support growth initiatives and drive enrollments. Your insights into Medicare landscape are invaluable, and we're lucky to have you here to share that knowledge with viewers today. I'm going to kind of dumb all of that down. Basically, what Mary does is she wrangles brokers and makes sure that we help our clients get the best possible plan and get all of the benefits of having a Prominence Medicare Advantage plan. Does that sound right?
It does sound right.
Sounds pretty good. So, all right. So let's start off with questions.
Well, first, I want to say I love this podcast studio and the Automobile Museum. Prominence has hosted sales meetings here in the past, and for anybody who's exploring space for events, I highly recommend it. They are accommodating. The catering is spot on. The audio-visual, it's a great place.
Yeah, it is a great place, and a lot of really cool cars, too. So if you're a car person like me, you definitely want to walk around. So, Mary, for those of you, for those who might not be familiar, could you start by giving us an overview of Prominence Medicare, what Prominence Medicare is, and what makes it a unique or valuable option?
Thank you for asking. First, I want to say very cerebral friends with benefits, Mr. Aware Benefits. I think that is
There's
very
a story
brainy of
behind
you.
that. I'll share that someday.
Okay. Prominence Medicare Advantage. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, thanks in great part to you and your coworkers and colleagues, because we only use independent agents to spread the word. I ask in jest every time we hold a big member meeting, who saw our commercial on the Super Bowl? Right. Up till now, one person said yes, and I say, well, it's actually a joke because we don't advertise, especially on the Super Bowl. We can't compete with Doritos and Pepsi. Prominence is a Medicare Advantage program servicing all of northern Nevada, southern Texas, and West Palm Beach, Florida. But for our purposes, we'll keep it to northern Nevada. And I think what makes us special is that we are local, not just a local sales office. But we all live here, work here, and many of our employees are married to the nurses, physicians, and surgeons that make up the network. Not in a nepotism kind of way, just that our passions surround delivering healthcare and creating affordable access to it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And one of the reasons why I absolutely love selling Prominence Medicare Advantage plans is exactly that. When I have a client come in and maybe they're facing a specific challenge or they haven't really been able to get something done, but when you have somebody local to reach out to at Prominence specifically to streamline that challenge, most of the time it gets solved like right away. You know, I think to me that's, as a broker, my interaction is with the clients, and they're obviously my first concern, and being able to genuinely help them because you're here locally is, to me, that's a huge thing. There have been times, not very many, I'm sure you're grateful, when I have had to text Mary. Can you help with this?
Yeah.
So,
And luckily, we have two stories right here across the street from Truckee Meadows on Meadowood. And it is open during business hours. We invite your clients, our members, in to discuss whatever is concerning them or attend a new member orientation in our new hospitality suite. But when your client, our member, needs something now, we know it's important to the member, their care, the future of their health, and you as far as an agent and the trust we have developed with your book of business. And having Dr. Biondi, our chief medical officer, literally text an endocrinologist or the cardiologist and say, I've got a situation, they can literally respond and say, send them over.
yeah.
So it's so much bigger than building a network. It's literally having a presence within the network and a face and a name that match.
True. That is the truth. There's a lot of plans out there, and of course, I don't sell only Prominence because I have clients that have different needs that maybe aren't served by that. But there are plans out there that literally have a list of doctors, and that is their network, but they don't really have any kind of relationship with them. A lot of the plans don't really maintain good relationships with the brokers, which obviously to me is the most important. But I think that's a key reason why you guys, in my opinion, have seen the growth that you've seen over the last few years.
I believe you and I agree with you and everybody at Prominence Land as far as operations, sales, and operations. They look at your production and the faith you place in us no differently than your financial investor would look at you investing in an annuity.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, when you put somebody in the Prominence plan, you want them to be cared for and you want that investment to grow as far as residual income, which is a beautiful benefit of our insurance MA sales system.
Yeah.
We respect that, we acknowledge it, and when we make decisions, hard or soft, that is always part of the decision factor.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of to that point, you and I chatted about this recently, but a great example is I had one of my clients come in. She's a Prominence Medicare member, and she has a big German Shepherd dog. So not as big as Atlas.
Okay.
But pretty good size. And he got away from her, and he just tore up her hand and shoulder and whatnot. And so she goes to the doctor, and the doctor is telling her that she's got to have extended occupational therapy on this hand, and it's her right hand. And she's thinking, I'm going to lose the use of this hand because, in the benefits, the listed benefits, you only get so many visits to occupational therapy. I emailed Mary right there while I was sitting with her, and within an hour and a half, she was approved for unlimited. Right. So that's the value in having a direct person that you can contact directly at the insurance company. And to toot my own horn, that's the value in having a broker, in knowing, okay, we have an emergent situation that we need to get handled right now.
Mm-hmm.
And an 800 number won't cut it. And so to me, I think that's really, really a value add that you guys have.
Thank you. And I think a perfect illustration of being local, because although I don't remember the exact situation, I likely ran upstairs and connected with the director of care services who put me in touch with the local case manager who probably called the therapist, and within that 90 minutes got it all set up.
Yeah. That was wicked fast. I was saying.
It takes a village.
Right. Okay, so one of the other things I want to talk about is myths and misconceptions around Medicare. In your experience, what are some of the most common misunderstandings you've encountered from individuals trying to understand their Medicare options?
I think one of the myths of people coming into Medicare or who might have been enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan, perhaps even a Prominence one, where they were not given full disclosure. And if something was not immediately delivered or the request for a prior authorization was initiated before they could self-refer, for example, to an MRI, they might believe Medicare would allow me to do it immediately. Medicare is a solid green light. Medicare is a national passport to healthcare. The biggest myth is that you can get more with Medicare alone and that it opens more doors. Although the Medicare health system is likely larger than a contracted plans network, all MA plans mimic and mirror Medicare rules, regulations, and allowables. We have to deliver not just what falls under Medicare A and B, but how things are processed and authorized. Believe it or not, complex diagnostics are still authorized through CMS, no differently than they are through an MA plan, in that there needs to be an authorization when it's not life-threatening. So the biggest misconception is I can move faster with a red, white, and blue card than I can with a health plan card. And based on the story you told a minute ago, I would really challenge that.
Yeah. I think that's one of the big cases, one of the big things that we see. Most people are, in my opinion, or in my experience, are greatly confused by what is the relationship between Prominence and between Medicare. And my job is really just to take that down as far as I can and make it as relatable and simple as I can. So I have a couple of little stories I tell, and I always preface it with, this is a huge oversimplification, right? Like, this is just to sort of give you a general idea of how it works. But kind of once you get through that, they start to feel better about it. They start to understand that relationship a little bit better. The other thing that I remind my clients of is, if you're on original Medicare, they're like, well, I can see whatever doctor I want. And I go, that is true, but don't forget that the doctor also has to accept you, right?
Yes.
So just because the insurance company says so, doesn't mean that the doctor will have to accept you. And where that becomes important is, a great one is referrals or prior authorizations.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I just want to be able to walk into any specialist I want to. And I go, well, most specialists will ask you to have a referral.
Yes.
Right? And that's not the insurance company making that thing. So I think that is a huge misconception that they have there.
I think the second biggest misconception would be the word referral and what it means.
Right.
I think many, many years ago, referral meant permission to see. But in all reality, a referral is a package of information coming from one medical provider, typically to a specialist, that includes why I, doctor, am sending this patient to you, and it includes medication history, reactions, test results, scans, diagnoses, or past treatment plans. So the specialist has an opportunity to review this and get up to speed, so in that 25 minutes they have together, they can get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
That is probably the second biggest misconception, is what is a referral? And when you have a health plan that doesn't have referrals, it means the health plan doesn't make the member get permission, but it doesn't mean the network of independent private practicing physicians will not request a referral.
Right.
And I think any respectable practicing physician will want one to get up to speed.
Yeah. Hey, total side note, and this isn't in our questions, but the other day I heard you talk a little bit about the difference in how care is paid for and how care is provided when you're looking at the way that Prominence does it versus the traditional point of sale thing. 2 minutes, can you kind of give our people a little bit of background on that? Because I loved that. I loved the whole piece of even not getting prescribed a medication you're allergic to, something to that effect.
Yeah.
So hit on that, because I think that's really important that you guys do.
I think what you're referring to is the presentation our vice president delivered on value-based care.
Yeah, that's the one.
And some health plans will call it risk management, but all managed care plans have some form of this. Value-based care in a managed care network, there are strategic care partners that you will work closely with who will assume the majority of the financial responsibility for their patients. And unlike traditional Medicare, where the doctor would send a bill to Medicare and Medicare would pay the bill, and the specialist would send it to Medicare and Medicare would pay the bill, in a value-based care program or risk management where the insurance company unloads, which is probably not the most professional term, helps manage the financial risk of that patient, the primary care assumes full responsibility, except in cases of emergencies and what have you, and they pay the bills of the specialist. So you've heard in our AHIP training, there are networks inside of networks.
Right.
This is kind of what they're referring to. Yeah. Your primary care group will have a preferred network of diagnostics and specialists because they communicate well, they answer their emails, they look at faxes if such a thing is still sent, and they probably have negotiated rates. So when I have a patient that really needs to see a cardiologist, we prefer to go here, even though the network is much more larger than this one.
Right.
And of course, the member or your client or the patient, all the same, can choose where they want to go. But if they place their trust in primary care, then they'll likely place the trust in where primary care is directing them. And this is a very smart way to manage dollars that create value. So you and I offer benefit plans and low copays, and I think the word copay is overused. What we really should replace it with is value and show a demonstration of what that looks like. And this is one way managed care plans can deliver value. I can get you access to care faster than if you were to do it on your own. Oh, and by the way, you have no premium, no deductible, no copay. But that should be a by the way. Let's show them what the value of enrolling in a structured program as opposed to the Wild Wild West and traditional Medicare in this regard.
Yeah, and I think it answers one of the things that you hear a lot as a broker, or even just as a man on the street. You know, people will complain about their health insurance because they will, but one of the things that they'll say is I don't understand why the insurance company is making medical decisions for me, and the value-based care sort of answers that, right?
Yes,
like, we're not really doing that, right? Your provider is, your medical professional is making that call. I think that's a huge help. So there's a little side note away from what we planned on talking about, but I thought that was really, really a great presentation.
Thank you. And I think it's smart conversation, healthcare economics for those that have made a career out of this arena. You should know how the proverbial sausage is made.
Right.
Information is on a need-to-know basis. And when you were 12 months deep into this career, you didn't need to know that. You just needed to know how to make an enrollment for obvious reasons. But the longer you're in it, you should know how your industry operates because ultimately it affects you as well as it does us.
For sure. And it'll help you solve issues, right? Mm-hmm. I was talking to somebody today, somebody who may come into the industry, and I was telling her, and I was like, you know, you do 25 or 50 Medicare enrollments, and you know how to do an enrollment. And then after that, the learning cycle is problems. Mm-hmm. Somebody comes in, they have a problem, they have a unique situation, and that's how you cover that, right? So the more that you do, and doing things like making sure that you attend those carrier meetings or organization meetings and learning how that all works. So Yeah, I'm glad that you hit on that. And
Good.
yeah, that was cool. So with so many plan options, it's definitely overwhelming for people to choose the right Medicare plan, and that is true. What advice would you give to someone who's approaching Medicare eligibility or looking to review their current plan? And from Prominence's perspective, how important is the role of an independent broker like Aware Benefits in that process?
That is $1 million question.
Well, I hope
And
so.
action
See how this
packed.
AEP goes.
Well, for somebody who is approaching Medicare eligibility, which is typically 65,
Right.
I'd say just start asking questions. Create your My Social Security account so you know what to expect as far as your Social Security monies. When will I collect it? And what are the pros and cons of waiting? For somebody who is in a Medicare Advantage plan and it's the annual enrollment period or AEP, I'd say make an appointment with your agent and go over your plan. Every plan carrier has to send out documents that says, this is your plan this year, this is your same plan next year. I doubt we have a 50% readership. I don't think I'm crazy when I say that is a really smart document, but most people put the responsibility of their health care on whomever it was that sold it to them.
Right.
And that's just not the wisest way to go about your personal health care, especially if there are financial consequences. So ask the early questions. If you are working, keep growing your Social Security, and just know whether or not you've got credible coverage. Ask those questions. Review your plan annually, make a smart decision, and see what's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Every year during that season, because as you know, I do both Medicare and I do under 65.
Yeah.
So it's a fun and exciting fall for me, usually. But a large part of it has become reviews, and I start reaching out to people in September, and I'm like, hey, let's make an appointment. It could be a 15-minute appointment, and the question I always get back is, well, has anything changed? Do I need to do a review? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Has anything changed?
Yeah.
Do you need to do a review, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't live next door to you. I don't see
Right.
what's happening all the time. And I think that's a big thing is making sure that and it's certainly not your full-time job as a member. Your full-time job is whatever your full-time job is, whether it's taking care of grandkids or traveling or actually having a job, whatever that is. But definitely making that time to connect with your broker is, I think, really vital to maintaining that. And I tell my members when I enroll them, I go, I'm your broker all year long, not just today,
Right?
right?
Right.
So whenever you have something come up, keep me in the conversation. I like to say sometimes all I can do is commiserate, but sometimes we can actually help. But it also keeps you engaged and makes sure that if something big happens, you're prepared to make that change if you need to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on the reverse, if nothing big happens,
Yeah.
are you potentially overinsured? When you and I buy insurance, whether it be property and casualty or health, we're just transferring the risk of an accident of sorts onto another party.
Right.
And a lot of people will overinsure because that's the nature of what insurance is. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's possible that you're spending too much or that your hopes of traveling nationally or internationally just don't pan out, and that policy is just not the best one for you at this time.
Yeah.
So if you plant that seed when you are connecting with the client initially and certainly at the time of signature, I truly believe it sticks. And it only pops up when the situation arises. Oh, I remember he said.
Right.
And I think it's brilliant that you offer it and you train your agents to do the same. I'm your agent all year long. Keep me in the loop.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think the last thing we had, I actually had asked some of my clients this, but we actually already hit on that. But So one single, and you just did a whole bunch of advice, but one single piece of advice for somebody that's in their Medicare journey at any point in their journey. What is your big piece of advice?
Ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And don't trust everything you say or everything they hear. I think they should have a set of questions of which become smarter with a little bit of wisdom. Or if a client were to ask you 3 questions and they are 6 months away from 65, if they were to ask those 3 questions 30 days before they're 65, it would have new meaning because they've collected information, they have processed it, the vocabulary words are not so novel. Yeah. But I would encourage anybody looking to make a health plan decision to ask a lot of questions and ask the individual agent, how many plans do you represent? Because I think that is a reflection of how far are your certifications or how wide is it? And what is your level of experience?
Right.
If you're only selling one program or one platform, then all of the answers to those proverbial questions fit into that one type of box. But somebody like you and Aware Benefits, who represents all plans in multiple states, you not only have answers according to networks and needs, but also geography. And I just would encourage people to think beyond your immediate needs and ask questions. Well, what happens 12 months from now? Well, what happens 5 years from now? Well, what if?
Yeah.
That would be wise.
Yeah. And I'm gonna put an addendum on that. Don't ask your neighbor.
Yeah.
Or your barber.
Yes.
Right. But make sure that you ask an expert.
Yeah.
I like to tease that, but it is true. I go get my haircut at a barber, and the first time I went in there, he said, "How do you want your haircut?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. You're the barber, right?"
Right.
Like, so he just did it. So I think that that's really important, is to stick with experts. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming in and appreciate your valuable
welcome.
insights. I love that so many of our sales directors, but you in particular, will take the time to spend with individual agents and help us in our journey as well. So definitely appreciate that. Anything,
favorite
last
part of
thing
the
you want to
day.
add?
No, I want to thank you for picking Prominence and inviting them to the table in your inaugural podcast. And I
Yes.
wish you tremendous success.
Well, thank you.